What is up, guys? I am Neil Barrett, and with the PLL rebranding all 8 of their teams and settling into home cities, we finally got the jersey release for the home city teams last week, and we got to see some of, but not all, of the jerseys on the field this past week. So let's talk about them. Before we get started, I have 3 disclaimers. First, art and design are completely subjective. These are just my thoughts, my opinions. I'm not suggesting that I'm any more or less right than you or that guy over there or the person who actually designed these. It's just my thoughts. Second, I understand how this process works. I know it's not just as simple as designer designs something they think is cool and that's what gets made. There's 150 other people that have a say and their own thoughts and opinions, and you may start with one thing and it's totally different by the time it actually gets approved. And 3, designing is hard and you're never going to make everyone happy. The absolute best you can hope for is that a majority of the people are happy. That's pretty much a home run, best case scenario. So if you like the designs, if you think they're cool, awesome, no hate. These are just my thoughts and opinions, and maybe down the line I'll do a video where I do some designs and y'all can tell me how bad mine suck. So with that in mind, let's get into it. First things first, kind of across the board, I think these are a step down from what they were last year and definitely the years before. In my opinion, I think there's a real kind of distinct lack of personality in these jerseys. The league as a whole seems to be getting away from the over-reliance on sublimated graphics, kind of sunk into the jersey to create personality, and are moving more towards a kind of traditional, straightforward style of jersey, which falls more in line with what we expect from a professional sports league. Ultimately, I expect that each of these brands will kind of carve out their own identity, but we're kind of in this middle point where we took away the way that they were identifying themselves, and they haven't quite developed the visual language for how they're going to identify themselves moving forward. So while I say that they lack personality, I also kind of understand why they don't right now. And some of them do a better job of establishing their own kind of visual identity than others. Probably my only real complaint across the board is that I don't really know what a PLL jersey is anymore. It used to be that it was a kind of soccer style jersey with a badge on the front, name and numbers on the back. Some of them had numbers on the side, some of them had maybe some graphic element on the side. But when you walk into a sporting goods store and you see a jersey hanging on a shelf, you can identify the sport that it is because you know what to expect. I don't know that if you removed these jerseys from the context of the PLL and you were walking into a random sporting goods store or Fanatics or somewhere where you're buying, fan merchandise, and you saw these jerseys on the rack, I don't know that you would know that they were PLL jerseys because they're all very, very different. The only thing that kind of remains is that they're a soccer style cut. And that's not to say that teams can't play with what goes where and stuff, but if everyone is doing it and there isn't that consistency of what makes a PLL jersey, then that's a problem, especially when you're trying to establish yourself. We spent 5 years building out, this is what a PLL jersey is, and now in the last 2 years, we've kind of shifted completely back to a more traditional style lacrosse jersey. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That could be the right step, and maybe it is, but it's weird because, again, we spent 5 years developing what a PLL jersey looked like. And about the time you stopped hearing people complain about it, we kind of accepted, okay, this is what a PLL jersey looks like. We changed it all. Other than that, across the board, I think they're fine. There's a few other kind of smaller things that I've noticed across the board, but let's get into them and we'll talk about them as we find them. First, let's talk about the tiers. I can't say that I truly love any of these designs, so I'm grading a little bit on a curve. But my top tier, we have awesome. They're good designs. that I do enjoy. I would tweak some things here or there, whatever, but by and large, they're pretty awesome. The next tier I have is solid. These are very good kind of overall designs that I have no real complaints with, but I think could be better. The meh category is just kind of that. They're fine. There's nothing really necessarily wrong with them, but there's nothing really anything right with them either. And the last category is the nope. These are bad uniforms that I just cannot get on board with. First up, we have the Utah Archers. They have matching uniforms. It's just kind of an inverse of each other. The base of the Archers uniform is very similar to what they had back at the championship series in February, except they took a lot of what worked about that uniform and removed it. So one of the best things they kept was that collar. I am actually a fan of that tricolor collar that they had. I liked the kind of gap in it with the logo there. I thought it kind of drew your eyes to it. It worked really well for me. The issue that I have, and you'll see this on several other jerseys, is that on the championship series jersey, they had that logo and then it said Archers and they had the number on the front. So it all kind of worked together. On this jersey, they have the logo here, and then probably the first thing that you saw was the big, massive, oversized Utah badge logo. This is by far the biggest badge logo we've seen on a PLL jersey, and it is noticeable. It definitely needs to be toned down. But for me, more importantly, you now have this big giant badge logo, and 2 inches above it, you have the same exact arrowhead logo right here on the collar. It's not a huge egregious thing. It's just one of my personal annoyances when you have the same logo sitting next to each other, because like, why include that logo and this logo? That's the same logo right next to each other. It's just repeating for no real reason. Another difference between the championship series jerseys and these is that they removed the mountain from the sleeve and just replaced it with a regular tricolor sleeve cap that matches the collar. That's kind of, whatever. I didn't love the mountain on the sleeves, but the sleeve cap being that tricolor band, it's a little plain, a little boring. I do, however, love the shorts. They moved that mountain down to the shorts on the left side. They're asymmetrical shorts. They used that mountain to kind of frame in the numbers on that left side, which I love. I thought was such a good idea and good use of that space. On the right side of the leg, they have a stripe with the Rundle circular Utah Archers badge, and I gotta say the shorts are carrying a lot of the weight in this jersey for me. Otherwise, I'd say it's nothing super special, but I do really like the shorts. The back of the jersey has a relatively plain single color font. I believe the names are in blue and the numbers are in orange. I kind of find the single color format boring, but it also kind of works for me. It's kind of weird like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm really torn on whether I like it or not. It pops, it feels good, but it also just kind of looks a little boring. But for these ones, we're gonna go pretty solidly in the solid for both of them. I have no real complaints. I think obviously they need to shrink that logo down on the front of the jersey just a smidge, and then I would love to see something just a little bit more on the jersey sleeves. I'm really not sure why they got rid of the kind of feather motif on the sleeves. That was one of my favorite touches on any of the jerseys that we've ever seen in the PLL, and them getting rid of it was definitely a downgrade. Next up, we have the New York Atlas. They are the first team involved to have 2 separate jerseys, which is something, again, you'll see more as we get into this. Their blue jersey is very similar to what they have kind of always worn, with the badge logo on the front, the horns on the sleeves, name and number on the back, obviously. It's just been updated with their new branding and falls more in line with that. The one kind of major change to this jersey is that they have gotten rid of the topographic pattern that they have used since their inception, and this year went with a gradient pinstripe look. It feels like your opinion of this jersey is really kind of tied into whether or not you like that pinstripe. I find I'm a little torn on it. On one hand, I find it kind of lazy that like, oh, we're the New York team, we're going to do pinstripes and that's how we're going to fit into the New York sporting culture. But on the other hand, if you're gonna do it, I kind of like that there's this new twist on it. It's just kind of a gradient at the bottom and it's kind of working for me. I don't know. Again, what do you guys think? Do you like it? The one thing that's a little bit weird to me is that the gradient goes up the shirt, but then on the shorts, it's actually there and it's flipped and it goes down. So people don't really tuck their jerseys in anymore, but if they did, they'd have this weird kind of gradient cummerbund thing right through the midsection, which I find a little weird. I just don't really know why we felt the need to put those there. Especially because guys are not tucking their shirts in, and so it's not even visible in the first place. Something I don't love is the shorts. The old Atlas shorts had kind of the horn running down as a stripe element. They got rid of that and now just have a plain white stripe down the side. For me, this is definitely a downgrade. Those shorts were definitely memorable and definitely said Atlas to me. So for this blue Atlas jersey, we're going to put it into solid. I like it. There's really nothing wrong with it. Again, it all really seems to hinge on whether or not you like that pinstripe gradient. I don't love it, but I wouldn't say I hate it either. So I think it's a pretty solid jersey. For the white Atlas jersey, they have gone with a more traditional look with New York across the top, and the numbers on the front are Atlas blue outlined with that darker navy blue. This jersey really reminds me of a UNC lacrosse jersey, which I'm a Duke guy and I hate to admit, they're beautiful. It's really hard to screw up that color combination, and UNC absolutely uses it to perfection, and I think Atlas really does here as well. So far, it looks like Atlas is going to be wearing blue on blue on blue and white on white on white. If we get any kind of variation on that, it's going to look amazing. I think this white jersey is the first one to go into the awesome category. It is, I think, a beautiful jersey, and I really hope that they wear it with maybe their blue shorts or blue helmet and mix it up, because I think it'll look really great with all the different color elements. Next, we have the Boston Cannons. They're wearing mostly the same uniform that they wore last year. The major differences are that it no longer says Cannons on the front, it says Boston on the front, and they got rid of the Cannons like logo explosion graphics on the sleeves and opted for a more traditional kind of collegiate striping. This was kind of my idea for them last year. I didn't love the explosion striping from them last year. It felt like it was from a different jersey. You had this traditional block lettering style jersey and then this like super modern kind of thing on the sleeves, and so I wasn't a big fan of that, and I wanted this kind of a striping pattern. I know a lot of people are saying that the Boston jerseys are boring, but I don't really understand that because it's a traditional jersey. Like, it's not supposed to look like crazy and have all these graphics and everything on it. And Boston is a place where you kind of need a traditional jersey. We're talking about one of the original professional lacrosse teams in the MLL. We're talking about one of the oldest and most historic cities in our country, and we're talking about trying to fit into a sporting landscape with the Boston Bruins and Boston Celtics, and even the Patriots have, you know, a kind of a traditional style look about them. So for me, this is exactly what this jersey should look like. There's two caveats I would make to this. One is that I'm a pretty big guy on contrast, and I don't love the striping because it has white surrounded by silver. I need that to pop, so move that silver somewhere where you can actually see it. On both of these jerseys, you can barely even tell that there's silver in that striping. And then two, it looks like the pairings this year are going to be white on white and blue on blue for the Cannons this year. And for me, that's just too modern of a look. It needs to be white with blue shorts and blue with white shorts. It needs that. It's a weird thing to say, but that makes it feel even more traditional. And wearing the color on color is a much more modern thing. That's not something that was typically done before. So that's not a look that's, you know, very traditional. Traditionally, you would wear different color shorts and jersey, so white on blue and blue on white, and I think that's what they should be doing here. But I still think it's a pretty good jersey overall. No real big major complaints, so both of them are going to go into solid. It feels like a lot of solid, I know, but we'll fill out some of these other categories, I promise. Next, we have the Carolina Chaos. I think a lot of people did not like these jerseys when they came out, and I was probably one of them. The red Chaos jersey is a more kind of standard PLL jersey, what we've come to expect, with the Carolina Chaos badge on the front. It has kind of a swooping sleeve pattern on it in solid black with a little white kind of bar across the top of it, and then the name and number on the back. The font for the name and number, it does go with the logo, so like I understand why they use it, but in both instances, the thing is just red Western to me. It doesn't read as anything Carolina. It definitely feels like a Western font face that's used in that kind of a scenario, which I can understand, you know, the scorpion and stuff, but it just doesn't quite tie into the area for me. Something that we have never seen on a PLL jersey that's present here is a secondary logo up on the yoke of the shoulders. It's something that a lot of people missed when these jerseys first came out, and I think is a really cool touch. In my head, it is a nod to the patches that the Carolina Hurricanes wear. I asked the question and I can't get anyone to confirm or deny it, but at least in my mind, that's what it is. And as a kid that grew up rooting for the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm pretty excited about that. That's a pretty cool touch. The red jersey for me, though, there's just not much to it. It's just some kind of plain color blocking, and that's it. So that's gonna be the first one that we put in the meh category. The white jersey, on the other hand, just kind of pops. It has Carolina across the front and the scorpion logo on the front. Another kind of mismatched jersey that feels a little funky. But on the sleeves, they put a checkerboard pattern in the little swoop. The tertiary logos on the shoulders really pop off of this jersey, and seeing it on the field this weekend, that block drop shadow just looked really good. Even though I'm not a big fan of the font, it looked really good. The shorts also look really good. They are another pair of asymmetrical shorts with one kind of stripe down the side that has the checkerboard pattern in it, and then the same logos that are up on the yoke down on the right side. They just kind of work for me. I like them. So altogether, this white uniform is going to go into awesome. I really dig it. They could tweak a few things, but it's overall, it's a pretty impressive jersey. And then we have Denver. I'm just going to go ahead and move these into the note, because I mean, they're bad. They're bad. There's almost nothing about these jerseys that I really truly like. Logos, I don't really like. Their placement, I don't really like. The smaller numbers off center, I don't really like. And for me, a Denver Outlaws uniform should be orange. I'm not sure why we went black and white here, but it feels like there's a very distinct lack of orange in these jerseys. Again, another team that's going black on black, white on white, you know, colors on colors. And it just feels like there was a missed opportunity to get an orange jersey in here and a little bit more color. Also, I mentioned earlier that I have a thing about contrast, and the fact that they used a silver gray on the white jersey and a gunmetal gray on the black jersey and just completely eliminated all of the contrast between the jersey itself and the collar and sleeve caps just drives me crazy, especially when you could just so easily flip those colors and it would be pretty much perfect. In about 3 minutes, I did this where I took the silver gray on the white jersey and flipped it so that the collar and sleeve caps are black with silver barbed wire, you know, the color of barbed wire. And I think, and you guys let me know if I'm wrong, but I think it looks so much better with that level of contrast. The other thing that really bothers me is that the sleeve caps are like double thickness, and the barbed wire doesn't sit in the middle of it. It sits in kind of like the upper third of it, which gives it this really like unbalanced and kind of awkward feeling. It looks almost like it was misprinted. So again, all that to say, I'm just really not a fan of these Denver jerseys, and I think there was an opportunity to make something really cool given all of their history in professional lacrosse. Next up is the Redwoods, the only team we did not see on the field in any capacity this weekend. So again, I'm going to reserve the right to change my mind once I actually see these on the field, but I think they're at a pretty good place. They brought back the full jersey stripes, which I'm a big fan of. I think it's such a unique look for our game and have really enjoyed it. This year they put a wood grain print in it, which I love. That's a perfect touch, but they fall into that same trap of having a jersey logo that also matches the collar logo, and that drives me crazy. But all in all, I'd say the design is pretty good. I like it. I'm going to put this one in the solid. The white jersey, on the other hand, I'm struggling with. I'm not really a big fan of word marks that also have a logo built in. It just kind of looks a little tacky and cheesy to me. But then again, it also has the collar logo that matches the logo right here. The two bears are sitting, 3 inches from each other. So again, I'm probably knocking it down for that. And then the rest of the jersey's just a little plain, just some sleeve cap striping and, collar striping. And that's pretty much it. It feels like a jersey that they could have maybe gone with like some shadow stripes on or something. I know we're trying to get away from sublimation, but it just felt like it could use anything else to help this. Overall, I'm just not feeling this one. I know there's probably some Woods fans out there that are gonna shout me down, but I'm just not feeling it. It's not working for me, so we're gonna put it in the meh category. Next, we have the Philadelphia Water Dogs. I gotta say, I really want to like these jerseys. It feels like the ideas they have in this jersey are very, very good. It feels like they just didn't quite execute them right. First things first, I've got to admit, I'm a little bit biased. I'm not a big fan of the kind of muted red purple that this jersey appears to have. I will add that on the field this weekend, it didn't quite look that color, but all of the pictures and on the website, it looks this color. So I'm not entirely sure if you order this jersey, what you're gonna get, but based on the photos, I'm not a big fan of that shade of purple. I tend to like my purples to be a little bit more saturated and kind of blue. So that's probably not helping my opinion of these jerseys. I do find it a little bit funny that when their branding looked like this, and it was full of muted purples and lavender, they wore uniforms that were this deep saturated grapey purple, and then they changed their branding to this, which felt like an attempt to kind of draw those two closer together and maybe make them feel like they belong together. And then they put out a jersey that was this muted red purple. I don't know, I just find that funny. But one, I don't really love the striping pattern. It's not bad, but I don't love it. It feels like something's missing from it. And then as the rest of the jersey unfolds, you realize that there's a sleeve cap stripe at the bottom that's not actually part of the striping pattern. It's just kind of additionally tacked on for no real reason. I don't understand it, and it really takes me out every time, especially when you look at the purple jersey. It really looks like it's trying to be part of the striping pattern, but it just isn't. I don't know, the whole thing just kind of screws itself up for me. So with all that being said, I'm going to put it in the meh category. I feel like there's a really good design here. It's just not quite there, and I think if they made some tweaks, I think we could get somewhere pretty cool with it. And the last team is the Maryland Whip Snakes. I have to admit, I'm having a really tough time with these jerseys because on one hand, this Whip Snakes jersey is a pretty blatant ripoff of the Maryland University Black Ops and White Ops uniforms. But on the other hand, I kind of feel like they made it better. They took what was a pretty cool design in 2012 and modernized it and updated it and made it better. Especially seeing it on the field this weekend, it just worked. There was just something about it that every single element worked. And if they ever get to a point where they're mixing and matching instead of going all white and all black, I think again it could be a really cool look for them. The snakeskin numbers is just an incredible touch. It feels kind of old PLL but in a new PLL kind of way. It's the kind of thing that you might see one of the big four sports teams do as a way to add some interest without, you know, going full on sublimation. So I really like that touch. I like the color band around the bottom of the sleeves. It just adds kind of a pop of visual interest. My one kind of complaint would be the outlining of the numbers. I've said several times I'm pretty big on contrast, and so the numbers going black, white, yellow on a white jersey, it makes that yellow strip really, really hard to see. I feel like I would have bumped it down to that black and maybe outlined it in black, but that's pretty nitpicky. That's mostly me just kind of trying to get it that 1% better, and is not necessarily something that's going to make this a bad jersey by any stretch of the imagination. So really the only real, you know, major complaint is that this whole branding is the Maryland flag theme, and I'm sure I'm going to get so many hate comments from Maryland lacrosse players, but the fact is the Maryland flag theme, especially in lacrosse, is so played out. Every single youth team has the Maryland flag theme. Every summer ball team has the Maryland flag theme. Maryland has the Maryland flag theme. It just feels like they would have been better served by keeping their original kind of visual identity and try to go more in the route of the Ravens and the Orioles and kind of establishing their own identity. And you can still work the Maryland flag theme into that the way that they have. I think you could take this design right here and put it in teal and you would have something pretty solid. But then you could also do stuff like have that tertiary Whip Snakes logo that has the flag pattern in it, so that you're still honoring this without it being your identity, especially when there's already a much more famous Maryland lacrosse team that wears the Maryland flag theme. So even though I think that this is one of, if not the best design in the league, I can't in good conscience put it anywhere other than nope, because it's just a ripoff of Maryland lacrosse's Black Ops and White Ops uniforms. And again, I'm sure many Maryland lacrosse fans will be in my comments giving me hate for that, but it is what it is. What did you guys think of the PLL jerseys? You can let me know down in the comments below. I will be sure to be in there and tell you how wrong you are. I'm just kidding. Additionally, I wanted to let you know that this Friday, I'm going to be live streaming the Archers Outlaws game on this YouTube channel, as well as Saturday night's game between the Atlas and Chaos. So if you got the time, jump in, hang out, watch the game, make some laughs, because I'm really looking forward to building out this community. But that's it for today, so I'll either see you then or I'll see you next week. All right, get out of here.